Hello, everybody. How's it going? Alyssa is back with us again. Actually, you know what? I think the last time we recorded a show, it was with you because I took like what felt like forever off, and so here we are again with you. Thanks for joining us. Hi, Paul.
Hey,
Oh.
how's it going, everyone?
Good. Yeah, we're all back from our vacations. Well,
Paul's
Fab's
still
yet to,
there.
or Paul's yet to take his. Fab's done
Yeah.
his. I've done mine.
Yeah, nice. Yes, we've all visited Canada. We all stayed within the Canadian borders, I guess. I
Yeah,
went to
right.
Prince
Not
Edward
tackling
Island,
it.
which was amazing. Cool. So today, talking about an interesting topic, which is social media. I know Paul and I have talked about content like way before we even knew you, Alyssa. And so, like I said, offline, I think social media is definitely your field of expertise compared to mine. I can share insights as to what has not worked for me as a very SMB, very SMB. But yeah, so I don't know if I have a very specific question, but I mean, like for you, like let's start from the top. Like how, or as general, like how would you, if you're an SMB or the SMBs that you work with, like how should you tackle social media? I mean, I know it's a big question, but where are you seeing maybe the biggest challenges? Let's start with the challenges first.
Yeah, for sure. I think for SMEs, specifically in the B2B space, if I'll preface that, because B2B and B2C are kind of different beasts when it comes to social media. And I think those who struggle the most with social media are B2B focused, service based, or even product based businesses. Who feel like they have to be on social media, but don't actually do any thinking behind whether they should or not. They're sort of doing it because they think they have to, but not really putting the thought behind, is their prospect there? Are they making sales from that interaction? Is it serving their business development well as a marketing channel? Because often I think business owners feel like they should play, but that's not necessarily true.
Right, and so they should play. So what I'm hearing between the lines is that they feel they should play, so they're doing it, but they're kind of half doing it, half having some sort of an intern or the son or daughter of one of the people there posting some random stuff here or there. I mean, or what I see a lot is like they'll be super active, like once they win an award or something, like it's all over the place and they get like 3 likes and then they disappear for another 6 months. And I mean, that's what I'm hearing you saying, right? Like when they feel they should be there, they're kind of half there, not really knowing what to do, right?
Exactly.
Guilty. I'm guilty.
Yeah, so am I. Like I'm not saying like y'all suck, because I mean I'm
I find
definitely
this
doing the
subject
same thing.
extremely important because let's face it, I think all three of us are individual one-man shows. We collaborate with other people. But, what you've just said, Fab, I didn't win an award, but, sometimes I get this little brain fart and I get out there and I'm active for a month. And then, in the summer, often, when I'm in the summer home as I am today, this month, I mean, I might not be as active. And I guess my question, to be more specific, Alyssa, is what should someone do who's working in let's take us, for example, who are working in a B2B world with a specific service. What is the best approach to sort of keep a baseline of doing things correctly? And let's for a second, Fab, if you don't mind, focus on people who are doing it themselves.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah, for sure. Who don't have an agency running multiple channel executions.
Yes.
Exactly. So I'm going to start by prefacing what I feel each of the different social media platforms are of value for.
Sure. Great.
I'll kind of categorize it that way. And again, I'm looking in a B2B space.
Yes.
Not B2C. You're not selling soap. You're not selling t-shirts. You're not an influencer who started a clothing line. We are B2B businesses.
I'm taking notes.
Space. Okay. So we have our main players, right? Let's call YouTube first and foremost. It gets ignored and forgotten a lot of times. If you are a B2B business, video content can be very valuable, especially if you have a complex product or complex service in which a video can offer some added sales support for you and also marketing support for you to have those videos present. Videos can cost money. They are an endeavor. They are a marketing tactic that is time consuming and costly, but incredibly valuable. People make the mistake then of putting that video on their website and putting it on Vimeo on a locked account that no one can access otherwise. Very dumb. Never do that. Always make sure you have a YouTube account for your business where you can house those videos. You're not going to get necessarily subscribers. You're not going to have people like following you or chatting or commenting on your videos. You can close all that down anyways and have no interaction whatsoever. But it's a landing space for your very valuable and expensive and time-consuming video content to live elsewhere for you in the Google space. So YouTube is connected to Google. When you search SEO, YouTube comes up. So that's where I see YouTube playing from a B2B perspective. It's a place to house your video content so it serves you better to help you get found by your ideal prospect in the larger digital world. That's YouTube. Next one likes to tackle Twitter. People think Twitter is fun. So Twitter is a good space if you are willing to spend time interacting with your audience. Twitter is a great place if you are an expert in your field, if you are a thought leadership provider, if you want to become the new Simon Sinek of your industry or whatever else. And I'm just being a bit facetious there. But if you see yourself as an industry leader and an expert and you feel like there's an audience of prospects in that space for you, Twitter's a good place to play. But it's really important that you are interactive on Twitter. You can't just tweet something and then disappear. If you're hoping to get interaction, you need to be able to comment. You need to be able to comment back. You need to be able to retweet. You need to be able to engage with other people in your space to drive more attention to your channel and in turn have better interactions that lead to sales opportunities. Right? So that's how Twitter works. Twitter also is a good place to link to other things. So, right, you make a little comment about your blog post, you put a link, and it drives traffic to your website. It also can serve that purpose well if you have another landing place with more content. Maybe you use Twitter to communicate your awesome videos that are on YouTube because you're an expert at your topic and you have amazing video content. And you use YouTube as a way also to get visibility out there about your content. Next, we have the biggies, right? Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. They all sort of serve different purposes. Instagram and TikTok, I would argue, are starting to meld into a similar thing. The main difference is demographic. You have maybe younger demographic on TikTok, maybe older demographic on Instagram, but both of the algorithms are video-based favoring algorithms where you need to make reels, you need to do stories, you can no longer just post a picture and make a comment and expect that to show up on your audience's home feed at all. Both are fairly labor intensive to create, entail an element of creativity to be engaging and interesting, and also making reels and also stories is fairly time consuming. And if you want them to show up, you need to play in those two places on those platforms. The one way I do see Instagram being of value, and I'll say TikTok is similar, just if you're talking to 16-year-olds versus like 45-year-olds, is it is a good place to be a landing page if you also want to be a voice of authority. If you want to showcase as a service provider, let's say, your expertise in a space. So I'll give the example of me. Fab, you're probably similar. I make videos. I do IG lives just because I'm too lazy to craft together a reel because they're way more labor intensive and obnoxious to make. So I do an IG live, which nobody watches because I talk for 2 minutes on Instagram Live. And then I save my video onto my feed. As a result, feed becomes a whole bunch of videos of me just barfing marketing information. Right? It's showcasing my expertise. Hey, today I'm going to talk with it's just like this, literally like this, but for 2-minute chunks. So if I connect with a prospect in my other lead driving initiatives that I'm doing, and they're creeping me, they're looking up the Zen strategy and they're finding my LinkedIn, my Instagram page, they get a bunch of Alyssa. They get a good insight on what it's like to work with Alyssa, what Alyssa knows, how she operates, how she thinks, how she talks. Do I resonate with her? Does she seem like she knows anything? It's a great place for my creeping prospects to learn more about me and to incite them to give me a call. That's how I use Instagram. And that's how I recommend most B2B, probably specifically service-based businesses, utilize Instagram as well. I don't care about acquiring followers. I don't care how many people follow me. I don't care if anyone watches my Instagram live. I care that, SME mid-market organization who I met through a talk 2 weeks ago, when they greet me, they're like, oh yeah, I want more of her. Yes, please. Then there's Facebook. Facebook is a space where it's good for advertising, I think, if you're doing digital ads. That's a separate thing. But in terms of playing, Facebook is great for community building. So if you have a program or a course, or you're doing cohorts of any sort, and that's your main industry, and that's your main place in which you operate from a business perspective, Facebook is a good spot to build a group of followers, build a community, charge for that community. That's how I would play. Also, if you are a business owner and part of your business development strategy is to communicate within these communities, having a good Facebook presence is important too. So let's say I chose and I recognize that I'm joining a number of different marketing, not even like industry organizations, whatever, we'll call them different industry organizations around the world, who I think are my ideal prospect who need marketing help. I would join those groups, and then I would want to make sure that my Facebook profile page and my posts are frequent, so that if anyone's creeping me on Facebook as well, they get some great content. Or if they see my name and they click on me in the context of a chat, I've got to get information on my page. And also, again, in order to play aggressively in Facebook, you need to be commenting and connecting and chatting with other people in order to drive leads and business opportunities. Then there is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the hero and the primary place that I recommend B2B service-based businesses and product-based businesses operate. But LinkedIn is different. It is not a social media channel. It operates differently. It likes people. So it's important that you as a founder, you as a CEO, operate as yourself on LinkedIn and not as your company. Good to have company channels, sure, but you won't get as many people following it. And LinkedIn is a place where you build business relationships person to person. So I want to follow a person. I'll get into LinkedIn after. There's a lot of things and information about how to kind of win or optimize your presence on LinkedIn. So I'll table that for now. But that is probably the primary social media space where you should be playing. And it's baffling how many companies are like, oh, LinkedIn? No, I haven't updated my profile in like 10 years because I've owned my company for like 5 years and I'm not looking for a job. So no. Like, what? Are you on crack? That's always baffling when I hear people say that. And but now at this point, it doesn't surprise me because I'm like, well, you're the 10th person who said that to me. So that's cool. Let's chat more about that then. The final thing is Pinterest. So Pinterest is an interesting place to play, much like YouTube, where it's a place that operates as an SEO search engine. If you are a, let's say, maybe a real estate agent or not a graphic designer, but like home decor, now I'm losing it, interior designer, let's say. Maybe you're an architect. Maybe you run a cooking school. I don't know, I'm making stuff up. If there is any imagery that helps really represent your work and your service or your product, it's important and will be value for you to play on Pinterest because it's an image-based search engine. So when people are looking up beautiful kitchens and you happen to be an interior designer and have a whole bunch of pictures of beautiful kitchens, guess who's landing on your page pretty often? And as a result, the pin links directly to your website. So they see a beautiful kitchen, they see a little note about I'm an interior designer, they click to learn more. But it's just a search engine with imagery basically and keywords.
So I have a question. So this is awesome. It's great. It's for me, it's also a learning experience. I mean, I think Fab and I can't talk for you entirely, but I think we do a lot of these things. I operate mostly on LinkedIn myself and YouTube. But I guess the question that some SMBs might have, super small clients, is, oh, this is fine and dandy, but like, how do I do it? A lot of people are hesitant to create video content because they figure, well, I've got to work it out. I got to make it perfect. I don't want to, I know Fab kicked me in the butt when I started a few years ago by saying, you got to write stuff and it doesn't have to be perfect. Just put it out there. this podcast is part of what we did. We said, well, let's just share our expertise, right? So what do you say to someone who, okay, we're going to do all these things. First of all, they should probably hire someone like you to help them work through these things for sure. But let's say someone's saying, well, I'm just starting out and I want to feel it out on my own before I hire anyone or do anything. Where do you suggest they start? Where do you suggest, what is it they should do first to make sure that they're doing something that is going to be helpful and not just, trying to write a book in 2 weeks, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So first and foremost, and this is the thing I always say, but I think your question is more nuanced, so I'm just blanketing it with this first, is go where your prospects are.
Okay.
But let's say, your prospects are on LinkedIn, so you're working there, and your prospects want more information about your expertise. So you're trying to play on Instagram and YouTube maybe, or you think you're doing a podcast, a book. And that's your question, I understand, is you can connect with your target in all those ways, but how do you choose which one to do?
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, my answer is, again, I'm getting philosophical on you guys. It's where you feel most comfortable, truly where you will shine the brightest, right? So like for you guys, let's say I'm making things up, and this is why I love doing this too. I'd rather chat with you guys than just talk to a camera blankly. This is more fun and more enjoyable and more valuable for me. And it's still, as I post it on my LinkedIn and I post it on YouTube and start communicating about it to my prospects out there in the world through whatever channels, they get a good exposure to me and my expertise, but it's a way more fun process for me just doing this.
Yeah.
Similarly to, let's say I'm a person who's like, I never want to be on camera. That's horrific, but I like writing. I'm writing a bunch of blogs. I really love writing posts. I maybe want to write a book or a little bookette or a little, like, what do they call the little like PDF mini books? They're called something and I forget the
white
name.
papers.
Like like a white paper, more scientific, or even just like a little mini downloadable booklet or bookette. Or
so basically, know yourself, know where. So if you're someone who's comfortable on camera, well, do stuff that is video based. If you're a horrible writer, then do video stuff. And if you're horrible on camera, you've got some horrible deformity.
Yeah.
Kind of like Fab. No, I'm just kidding, Fab.
That's amazing. That came out of nowhere.
For radio, then just stick with that.
Yeah, I hadn't thrown a curveball at Fab in a long time. I said,
I've been sitting here quietly, not attracting attention, and wham!
You got hit in the back of the head. So essentially, you're saying go where you're comfortable, go where you feel you can give value, but. Alyssa, I'm going to ask you this, and I know I'm not perfect when I go on camera, and some people say, wow, I really like that video, and I think, oh, wow, I could have done this and done that. What do you say to someone who's really afraid, is a perfectionist, and is afraid to do anything because they're afraid it's going to, like they put all their videos on Vimeo because they're worried something's going to get stolen from them or whatnot? And what do you do with people who are, some people like that, they have a business, but they're very private, or they're very worried about getting their stuff out there, either because they're insecure or they're worried their stuff's going to be stolen. Like you want to talk to that?
Yeah. I say that, again, philosophical again, that goes into an abundance mentality, right? Like if your stuff's going to be stolen, it's because you feel there's a sense of lack, clients out there, a competitive nature. I think it's important as business owners to go into your business with not that mentality, to go in saying, I know my prospects are out there. There is a freaking world out there of a bajillion people. And of those bajillion people, I know that whether Sally down the street is copying my stuff and doing the same thing, I'm still going to resonate and connect with my ideal prospect and target. So I say, don't even think about that. First of all, shut that off in the brain immediately.
And if I can add just a little...
Sorry?
If you could add just like a little bracket, if you could add like a little 2 cents there, going back to what you said, right? Like where your Instagram lives, like no one's watching them, no one's liking them, they're there for another purpose. We all have this idea that people insanely care about what we have to say, because probably we're passionate about ball bearings, because I've had a ball bearing company for the past 10 years or 15 years or 25 years. But the reality is, like most, especially at the beginning, like nobody's listening to your videos, right? LinkedIn doesn't know that it's worth sharing your videos. Twitter doesn't know. Instagram doesn't know, right? So you're just kind of sharing stuff. But at the flip side, and we can address that in a second if you want, is like that's what I find also demotivates people, right? Like you have a very nice personal philosophy. Like I don't care if nobody's watching my lives. But a lot of people do care because they're so passionate about their ball bearing company, and they're like, okay, I'm going to do this, and they're mustering up all their courage to do this, and they put out this video, and then they have like a like, and they realize it's their spouse. Like it's,
I want to put a bracket around your bracket, Fab, for a second. It's so true, but what you're saying is really brilliant, because what you're saying is, at first, no matter what, you're not going to get that many views. So don't be worried about the perfection of your content. And Fab, what you're also saying is that if you're passionate about a specific subject, ball bearings, well, you only get to get the followers eventually that are passionate about ball bearings. So if you're talking about ball bearings, well, those people are going to find you and find interest in what you're saying. And again, it's about sharing information. It's about communicating. So I love your bracket. See, I was nice to you after I was mean to you.
Yes, it's a good bracket entirely. And if you're passionate about what you're talking about and you're good at explaining and expressing it, then that video is going to serve you well, even if it's not perfect. And I would say doing something in general is better than not doing anything. Mm-hmm. Unless you're going out there and drastically offending people and saying horrific things, you're not going to mess it up, right?
Well, I think if you're in B2B, you're not. I hope you're not doing that.
You can't do it badly, right? Like you can get better, but the fact that it's perfection in your own mind, which is so irrelevant and subjective to what anyone else is thinking or believing. And so it is important to remember that you are an expert on your subject, and anyone who's listening, even if you feel like I only shared a fraction of what I know, I only sort of expressed my brilliance, you're still going to seem brilliant to them because they know nothing, right? So if you think about it in that regard, it's really important. And I would say too, don't try to be linear about it. Like some people think like they're on a TV show, right? It's like the first, hey guys, this is my first post, blah, blah, blah. Nobody's following you in that linear fashion. If I just want to pick up my phone and talk about like social media today, I'm just going to blah, 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 blah with that. And I'm just going to talk about ball bearings for 3 weeks. And that's what I'm going to do. That's totally fine.
Ball bearings are very important.
Content.
There's a lot of ball bearings in our world. They're very, very important. I can't believe you're picking on ball bearings.
I know. I like that we're going on to ball bearings.
I just figured we'd pick something random because that's the other thing that you hear, right? Which is like, oh, nobody cares about my topic, right? Like, because what you see online, first of all, you see a lot of B2C examples, right? That's the reality. Like you're seeing Nike doing their stuff, and then you're like, well, I have a ball bearing company. Like I'm not hiring Ryan Reynolds to do like my spot or whatever. Like I'm just me in a little office in an industrial neighborhood on the outskirts of like whatever big city. Because that is something you hear, right?
Well, and I would say it depends on your product too, right? Like if you're selling ball bearings, then maybe it's more of a matter of talking as an industry expert, talking about like
what matters to your
client. Maybe you don't have to do too much posting. Like if it's a LinkedIn thing, maybe, but maybe that's not even your strategy. Like maybe you have only a few distributors who you're selling to. And so you have more of an outbound sales strategy with like really good decks, really good presentations, really good a sales funnel of some sort. So it depends on the topic, but I think a lot of social media is most valuable for those who have a service-based business or who are experts in their field, because they're buying you, they're buying your brain, right? And if you have a course too or a program, they're buying that program, but they're buying also the brain of the program that created it.
Yeah.
So for ball bearings, for example, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just maybe, I don't know if I completely disagree. I'll give another perspective to that because there's this one company in Montreal that I know. I don't know how well their social media efforts are actually working. I don't work there. They're not my client. But they work in like the pharmaceutical space, like highly niche, like document collection or documents. I don't even know what they really do, but it's hyper niche, right? And what they're doing on social from the outside seems really interesting, even though they have a software. It's a very stuffy industry. And having spoken to their marketing person, I mean, that's part of what they're using to differentiate yourself. We're not, we're a SaaS version of this. We're the only ones that do this. All our competitors are like these old archaic companies. And for them, again, from the outside, seems like really interesting. They're trying new things. They're trying to do also some of the B2C style ads with like memes and GIFs and all that stuff, even though it's about their thing. And even though I know nothing about their industry, I'm always reading their posts because I always find that they're really interesting in the way they present things. So
I want to say
I think even if you have a product, could be interesting.
But that's also, those companies are often also trying to get people interested in them as an investment, right? So if you're a small pharma company, you might have an interesting product, you make it really nicely, but you also you're also catering to an eventual customer, a B2B customer, but you're also maybe catering to a potential investor. So
Yeah.
you're
I think there's
becoming
also
what you're becoming is maybe a potential investor down the line. Because when these guys go public, you'll say, "Oh yeah, I was following him. I want that stock
Yeah.
or something." So there's
I think
a
there's
lot
also
of
I think you also have to accept as an industry that even though your business has been around for 35 years, 40 years, whatever it is, you bought it off, it's been around for 65 years. The demographic of your buyer is changing, right? Your buyer is increasingly on TikTok and Instagram and stuff. And even though you might not be there and that's not your main strategy, you want to stick with the LinkedIn to do more quote unquote serious content. You have to understand that your buyer is changing. And so if they're seeing fun, engaging stuff on social, like you were saying before, Alyssa, right? Like the creeper, they're creeping you. They're like, oh, well, maybe our supplier is not that great. Let's see what else is out there. I'm new at the company. I've been here for 5 years. I just replaced the buyer who's been there for who's done their whole career here. And I want to shake things up a bit, or I am looking for new software. And because I think that's where one part of the opportunity lies for those still SMB, but kind of like more traditional companies. I don't know how I ended up on that tangent, but
no, it's true. It depends on your objective, right? And it depends. It's important too when you're building your marketing plan to have a sense of the competitive landscape. And that's not from a space of lack or competitiveness. It's just to have an awareness of how I can position myself to be different and better from what else is out there, to be even more appealing to my ideal prospect. And so, for example, that company, let's say, maybe they recognize that all their competitors are viewed and position themselves as maybe more old school, maybe more traditional. And they recognize, hey, a way for us to differentiate ourselves from the rest of our industry or from other options for our target to consider instead of us, we're going to choose to go this route strategically as a marketing strategy to be able to present and position our business as being different and better in whatever ways.
Is that that's often used in B2C, right? So would you say that's sort of an advertising B2C approach that you can use in B2B? Like, you'll see that with companies like Nike, like several years ago, they started, being very different in their advertising. And, we're all buying running shoes. So as a B2C consumer, it has an effect on us. Would you say, I'm asking this to both of you, would you say that pharma approach, that having nice videos, being a little different, is that sort of applying a B2C approach, which ties in, which connects with your emotions more than just your rationality of the actual product that you're needing to buy as a B2B consumer? I don't know. Is that possible? Is it making clear? I'm saying, are you using the emotional factor of B2C in a B2B world?
Mm-hmm.
I think so. I mean, Alyssa, I'll let you answer first.
Yeah, sorry, I thought there was a spider on my wall. That's the reason why I was looking there. I wasn't being super thoughtful. I was just like, oh my God, what did I see? It was just a floater in my eye.
And here I thought I'd invoked some super thoughts.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, yeah, like, brilliant. Let me think. / maybe I don't squish spiders, so I wouldn't squish it, but I was just observing it. Anyways, it wasn't one. It was fine. We're safe. Okay, circle back. Question. Yes, so to your point, yes. If all SMEs had the energy and time to make incredible campaigns at an emotional, creative level that large, like CPG, big brands can, by all means, that sets them ahead in terms of attention grabbing. The issue is it's the ratio of time and energy and money versus the impact on sales. Is it worth spending that time and energy to create that kind of content at that level? That needs to be at that level to have that emotional interaction, right? You're not producing something that's crummy and DIY'd and evoking a lot of awe and inspiration and emotion. It has to be made at a certain level. If you're creating stuff at that level, is that as effective or worth the ROI than doing something more boring and basic? And that's why you don't see, I think, SMEs necessarily, service-based businesses, B2B, going in that space, because there's like, well, like it's way more effective for me to just take someone out to lunch. Like that would be a better spend in terms of getting a new client, because they're not selling en masse. They're not selling thousands and millions of running shoes to the entire world. They're building up contracts with 20 companies for a year at a time, right? So it just depends. It depends. entirely. If you're selling a larger
That's
product like ball
very
bearings, or maybe you're
that's
selling that more en masse to businesses, then maybe you do want to take kind of a Nike approach. If
but
you do have a lot.
that's very interesting, because what you're saying is know what you're trying to achieve and put the right amount of energy into maximizing your efforts, right? So let's use Fab's Pharma, because I find that very interesting. Let's use Fab's Pharma again. Like, he's not likely to to maybe need their product or even invest in them, but because he's a guy who's got a marketing background, he's probably interested in watching it and he's following them. So really, Fab, are you, and I'm saying this in a nice way, are you a useless follower to them? Because they've created something that's really attractive and it's great, but like, are you going to give them any money or buy their product? Are you going to talk about them? Or like,
Yeah, but I think that's where B2B falls flat when it comes to a lot of marketing initiatives. And maybe Alyssa, you can you can completely disagree with me, and that would be amazing. But I think that's where, because B2B comes from a very, not transactional in terms of the sale, but very, outbound, sales driven, taking you out for lunch, back in the day, taking you out for golf and all that stuff, because they come from that world where if I hire Paul at like Paul, like a salesperson at $120,000 a year plus commission, I'm fairly certain that they can bring me back $500,000 in revenue, and it's very mathematical. And where a lot of social, but marketing in general is kind of heading, if you take like at the B2C side of things, is that there's this intangible component to it, which a lot of B2B companies struggle with. I think if you're in B2C, you kind of accept that, well, if Nike's doing all this inspirational stuff and I'm selling a new type of running shoe like Allbirds or whatever, I mean, they're not new anymore, but when they were new, then you kind of have to accept that, well, this is the way I have to go, because otherwise there's no way I can compete. I can't go door to door on my clients like, if you want to buy a pair of shoes. And I think that's where the opportunity lies, though, with a lot of B2B. I think they can be, and inspirational is a strong word, right? Because I agree with you. Like, I don't think it's about spending millions of dollars on that, but I think B2B needs to step away. So going back to answer your question, Paul, am I a useless follower in the typical B2B sense of like, am I going to buy from them or invest from them? Yes, I'm a useless follower. Am I a useless follower in that I am helping extend their brand when I like their posts? If I have somebody in the pharma space that then gets introduced to them, and that's where I find like the social component is. And my last thing that I'll say, and maybe it's completely irrelevant, is, and I've seen it in my business, right? The more I post on LinkedIn, even though most of my followers are completely useless to me, like they don't have HubSpot, they never want to use HubSpot, they're like marketing assistants, they're never going to be a decision maker. The more I post, the more I get inbound leads. Like it's correlational, like it's there. And so I think B2B needs to, if they really ultimately at the end of the day, be successful on social, like a good success, not like, hey, I'm doing it, it's kind of cool, like the way I do it. They have to step away from the fact that this is not a transactional medium. This is not going to be, I put in $1 today and it's going to give me $2 tomorrow, right? It's like, I'm going to put in 100 today, and maybe down the line at some point, I'm going to realize, oh wait, I have like $2,000 more in my pipeline that I don't know really how it got there. They just picked up the phone and called us, type of thing. Right. I don't know. That's my point of view, which is the hardest sell in the world, by the way.
But
for
Fab,
a B2B company.
I would equate that to, let's say, I'm gonna do the parallel in the sales world. It's sort of like when you have a conversation with someone who's not going to buy from you right away. You're still building a relationship with them because they might have a reference for you. They might be able to help you down the line. So what you're, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I boil down your argument is, I might not be a directly useful client to this pharma, but if I can talk about it in my medium and I'm helping them out indirectly, I might be helping them out indirectly because they're building a relationship with me that it might help them in the long term.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. And I think social allows you to do that kind of en masse, at scale versus one salesperson getting one referral, right? Like but anyway, sorry, I interrupted you.
It's true. But I would argue that one should not base their social media strategy on getting the Fabs to talk about us.
Yeah.
Their social media strategy should be entirely based on whether they are enticing and inspiring their ideal prospect, however they land on their content, to call them. So
For
that's
sure.
where I think that pharmaceutical example is probably equivalent to my, IG post of 2 minutes, where they're just choosing a different type of content, right? I'm a talking head because people are buying me. They're a large organization with many people. They don't have a talking head, so they're making cool graphic videos about their services. And I think the purpose of it most likely still is to be engaging to their prospects who land on them or who maybe
Right.
follow them, to say these guys are innovative, getting some impression about them that they want to project to make them say, oh, I think they can help me.
For sure.
And that is the heart of it. Whatever that content looks like, whether you're dancing in a dance move video, whether you're a talking head, or whether you're doing really cool graphic stuff, or whatever that content looks like, it should come from that place of my goal is entirely and only to hook and engage my ideal prospect.
Mhm.
And you're right, though. So it's a separate thing, too, when you get into algorithm play, and this is where we can expand a bit on the LinkedIn strategy if it's helpful, and also for Instagram. So if you know that your followers are on Instagram, you know that you make sales off of people clicking on your website from Instagram, then it makes sense to make sure that content that you're putting out there is visible in real time, that it's showing up on their newsfeed. In the same way in LinkedIn, for all of us and most service-based B2Bs and product-based B2Bs who are selling to VPs of organizations, VPs of operations, VPs of product management, whatever they are, whoever that target is, who's living and playing on LinkedIn, they want to make sure that their content is visible to that person on their home feed. And that's where you want to play to the algorithm. So there's a few strategies there that you can do as a business owner, business founder, speaking on behalf of your business to grow on LinkedIn.
So
Do you want me
what's the so
Okay.
I have one last question
Yeah.
for me as far as this. So I'm imagining myself a service provider of a specific service, not mine, but something else. I don't know, you're whatever it might be. You're an accountant. You're an accounting firm. You're offering your so that person who's starting out. What's the are there some questions they need to ask themselves other than the ones you mentioned about are you better being on screen or writing down? Are there things that they should be deciding to put out there that makes sense to start with? Like, is there a portion or is there a way? Do you have some kind of suggestion to them of things they should ask themselves before they do this process? Like, what's the mechanical or tactical process they need to go through before they start doing this?
Yeah. Well, if the goal is to get visibility via an algorithm, so let's use an example. So separate from my Instagram example where I just want a dumping place for my content for creepers. If the goal is to get active content visibly showing up on your prospects feed, then you want to play to the algorithm. So you base your content strategy on what the algorithm likes to see best.
Okay.
So for LinkedIn, for example, and this is always changing in real time a little bit, but we know some base things, and maybe there are people out there too who even know more than me, because there are LinkedIn experts out there for sure, but me as a business owner / a larger overarching marketing expert, I know a little bit. So I know LinkedIn, so don't play as your business, play as you as an individual. People who interact with you will then creep on your business to find out what you do. Your profile should be highly effective at selling you and your business. Your about page should incorporate your about section, should incorporate basically the above the fold and first half of your website information, i.e. who you are, what you do, why you're better and different, why I should contact you, basically as a service professional or as a business leader. And then next, once they go into your resume further, then you get your job, founder of X company, and that has some details about your company. And then from there, your prospect can click on the company and learn more, click through to your website, maybe look on your website page, your LinkedIn company page, but most likely you're just going to click right through to your website, let's be honest. When it comes to posting, it's important that you post valuable, interesting, insightful content, around 200 to 250 words at most. Don't be too long, maybe don't be too short as a post. And as an image, you're better off to incorporate, the algorithm likes faces, they like people, and you're best not to include links. So you're better off to interact directly in the platform versus driving someone elsewhere, because the algorithm likes that better too if you play within LinkedIn versus putting links to drive elsewhere. If you do have a link, for example, you're talking about, let's say we're all promoting this podcast next week. We're going to do a little description of why you should watch this, what's in it for them, what we talk about, a little summary I'd even provide probably in my post. And then, hey, if you want to learn more, check out the comments below and I have a link to our YouTube page. And it would probably be a screen grab of this image of us. So it's got a bunch of faces. And then once people start commenting in my comments, I'm going to pop in the YouTube because that's what the algorithm favors. The other way to play best on LinkedIn to make your stuff more visible to your prospects is to connect and comment with others. Almost more important than posting is finding people who are popular, who post a lot in your space, who you know your prospects follow, and interact with their posts. Get them talking to you. Make sure those prospects see your comments if they're reading through, because that gives you visibility to another person's audience, right? Your prospects who maybe don't follow you, aren't finding you on their feed. If they follow this bigwig person too, and you're commenting and making insightful comments and doing back and forth conversations and chirping with other people in that comments feed, they're going to see you. I've had prospects come to me because it is more important even than posting. So those are the two ways you can play and win on LinkedIn. I could probably go on with more, but I'll leave it at that for now.
I'm going to have to play the bad cop here. I know we only have a few minutes left, and I do have a hard stop at the hour. Thank you, Alyssa. This has been great. I think it would be interesting. I don't know if it's part of this conversation. Maybe we can do a side note on some other episode, because I really liked what you said about the commenting, right? And I think in a way is maybe an interesting place for a lot of people to start, because it's like it can be intimidating to do a video, write a blog post, do some audio, because those are all things that you're probably not used to doing. I mean, maybe you're used to being on stage and being filmed. Maybe you're used to that, but maybe you're not. And I find that's also useful in other mediums, right? If you're like part of some Slack channels, like Slack groups and stuff like that in your industry, it's easy to go in and read what people are saying, comment, like it doesn't somehow feel as intimidating, even though you're just saying like, hey, thanks, Paul, for sharing this. Like, love the thoughts on the sales process, blah, blah, blah. That's an easy comment to say, right? And that can trigger a conversation, down the line, DMs and stuff like that as well. So that was a really great insight. Thanks for sharing that one.
Yeah. And I would recommend too, is having a bit of content at least to start on your page. Because if you think about it logically, if you start to involve in commenting, you're getting people to start creeping you. So not that they're seeing your posts, but if they're creeping you and I like Alyssa's comment, I want to learn more about her, you better make sure your page has a lot of good information about you that they can further creep. Mm-hmm. So it has some good pinned posts of you doing whatever, or of you talking about important things. Even if it's 250 words or 200 words as a good post, it gives them a chance to say, oh, she knows about this topic too. Oh, they're insightful about that too. Oh, they offer this service too. It gives them, again, for the creepers who are landing on you, lots of information. So it's kind of a chicken and egg, where it's good to have a bit of a really clean, really effective LinkedIn page, have some good content up there to help a prospect further feel inspired to contact you, and then utilize commenting and interacting on the platform to hook those leads onto your page.
Great.
Awesome.
Thanks, you Alyssa. Very much. Yeah. Thanks, Alyssa. It was really, really, it was very insightful, and I think it's going to be very helpful to many people. It's funny, I was having a conversation with someone yesterday about this exact subject, saying, well, listen to the podcast, because we're going to have someone who's going to be talking to us. So wonderful. Thank you. Nice. Thank you so much. And I guess we'll see you soon. And in a month. Yeah, in a month. And Fab and I are arguing every week.
All right. Bye. Take care, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Thanks again. Bye.